Barrasso. Senator King, you're up to bat next.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lassert, I'm a little confused. Senator Lee asked you the question about the Humphreys executive decision, and you seem to indicate that you felt that the president would and should have the power to fire a FERC commissioner. Is that your position?
No, my Senator, thank you for the question. My position is that we'll follow the law, and if the Supreme Court of the highest court in the land changes that law, then we'll follow that too.
Well, it's hard for me to imagine how the president having the power to fire commissioners could. Then you could still call the commission independent. That, to me, is an ultimate compromise. Let's talk about the central reality that we're facing today, which has been mentioned several times, and that is the incredible increase of demand of electricity. The chairman in the last hearing that we had indicated some data that we're looking at 2% a year increase in demand. Over 10 years compounded, that's a 30%. That's a staggering increase. The question is, there are two issues. One is the power availability, and the second is time. How soon can it come? Ms. Swett, what's the cheapest form of electricity generation today in the country?
Thank you for the question, Senator. I have not looked into that issue, but I am happy to look into it and answer any questions.
Well, I'll help you. It's wind and solar by a mile, by a factor of 2. The fellow who left here under difficult circumstances actually was correct. The cheapest form of energy today are wind and solar by a long shot. Do you know, let's take a case study, Iowa. Any idea how much wind power supplies to the economy of the electricity supply of Iowa?
No, sir, I don't know those specific numbers.
60%. Iowa is the 15th lowest electricity cost in the country, and in the past year, as we've already learned, average electricity prices across the country have gone up between 6 and 10%. In Iowa, it's actually gone down 0.5%. The point is, you both have talked about being agnostic. I hope you'll hold to that, because we can't ignore the reality around us that this administration is extremely hostile, and that's a mild term, to renewable energy. And yet, and the second point, as I've talked about price, is speed. There's no question that wind and solar are the quickest to deploy. Senator Heinrich mentioned if you wanted a new gas turbine plant today, it would be about 7 years between permitting and the fact that there's a 5-year wait time for a turbine. A major solar project can go online in a year and a half. So I just hope that you all will be true to your word today and not follow what amounts to an ideology that says we can't have wind and solar. Mr. Lassert, will you commit to being agnostic as to energy sources and focus entirely on reliability, cost, and availability?
Senator, the Federal Power Act requires that a commissioner be neutral in those decisions, and I commit to following the law. And
I think I want to emphasize again, speed is an issue here. This demand growth that we're seeing is going to be taking place in the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. We don't have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years to somehow conjure electrons out of the sky. Actually, we can conjure them out of the sky if we're talking about solar power. So the second issue, we're talking about supply, is the grid. The grid is not prepared for this increase in demand. And one of the concerns I have is the cost of expanding the grid to meet this demand is going to be gigantic. And we have to be sure that that the expansion of the grid is done in a cost-effective way, and that's where FERC comes in, and that's where what I call GETS, grid-enhancing technologies, come in. Ms. Swett, talk to me about utilizing grid-enhancing technologies as opposed to simply building in the old way and adding this cost to the consumers.
Thank you for the question, Senator. I fully share your sentiment that we should be maximizing the resources that we already have, including the existing grid. And as someone who has represented transmission owners in the past, I understand the technology behind that and the potential benefits that can be realized from GETS.
But you also understand, if you've done that kind of representation, that it's the incentive to the transmission owner is to build, not do the low-cost, no-cost improvements. And therefore, I think FERC has to think about how do we incentivize the adoption of these technologies, because letting the market play as it normally would, where the transmission owner has the incentive to actually build rather than make the grid more efficient. So I hope you'll bear that in mind.
Thank you, Senator. Yes, I understand that transmission incentives have been heavily litigated at FERC, and FERC has been facing those very difficult issues for many years. And I commit to you that I will take a hard look at any of those related matters if they come before me, if I am confirmed.
My time has expired, but very quickly, just I hope you both, assuming you're confirmed, and that's up to the committee and the Senate, take a serious look at the interconnection queues at the RTOs. That, remember we talked about time. The average wait in many RTOs around the country is 5 years. And that is unacceptable. And some of the RTOs are now talking about using AI in the analysis, the engineering analysis for interconnection. I think that's got to be part of the solution. Again, time is our enemy here. If we don't meet this demand, we're going to see some very negative consequences. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.